Hello, heroes and Zargons. I'm Alfred, and this is the Trials and Tribulations of Zargon, a series which details the many ways in which the Emperor's heroes foil Zargon and his minions in their plots to conquer the Empire. In it, we'll review published quests and any house rules and modifications I'm using to make the game more interesting and challenging. This is the third installment of my house rules videos. In it, we'll cover the level advancement deck for the wizard. I covered why I designed level advancement decks and how they work in a previous video, so go watch that if you want a detailed analysis of the goals I'm trying to accomplish with these decks. I will, however, let my former self quickly recap the process for gaining a level. Each class has a deck of 10 improvement cards. When a hero completes 3 quests, and again every 3 quests thereafter, the hero can seek training. Training costs 500 gold coins per level, and each subsequent level costs an additional 100 gold coins. So, for example, a hero with no levels must complete 3 quests and then pay 500 gold coins to draw from the leveling deck. If a hero has already drawn from that deck once, they must complete an additional 3 quests before they draw again. Then, they must pay 600 gold coins to do so. Now that you know how the system works, let's talk about the wizard. In my estimation, the wizard simultaneously has the most ground to make up in comparison to the other heroes, and has the most extra material in the original game and expansions to draw from. I wanted to lean into the idea that a wizard's mind points play some role in their casting abilities, and I also wanted to use all of the spells from the other expansions as well as the chaos spells. The wizard's deck is perhaps the most complicated, however, because the elements of it are much more interrelated than those of the other heroes' decks. Every deck has 3 or 4 raw stat advancement cards. I consider raw stats to be body points, mind points, movement dice, attack dice, and defend dice. These last 3 I provide extremely sparingly. Movement is of limited use, and attack and defend dice are really powerful. The wizard's initial array suggests a pretty obvious advancement package. 1 body point and 2 mind points. That puts a theoretical, fully advanced wizard at 5 body points and 8 mind points, which is going to feel really bad if the wizard doesn't get something to do with all of those mind points. From there, I needed to do 2 things: increase the wizard's casting options and increase the power of their spells. Options were easy. I've always loved the idea that the heroes can learn enemy spells, and there are also a few additional spell groups from the Wizards of Morcar quest pack. I wanted my heroes to have access to all of those as options. Initially, I was going to add 2 cards to the deck that granted the heroes more hero spells, and then 2 that granted monster spells. But after looking at the darkness, divination, and protection spells from the Wizards of Morcar pack, I simply wasn't that excited about them. So I added 1 hero spells card and let the wizard choose which of those spell groups they wanted. The card reads, "Your study has increased your spell options. Choose a spell group from the following list: darkness, detection, protection, air, fire, water, or earth. You know these spells and may choose to prepare them as one of your spell groups or store them in your artifacts. You may not choose the same spell group twice." This gives the hero a lot of agency over their new spells and provides the opportunity to double up on 1 elemental spell group, at least if they want to have a second spell set of whatever the elf is carrying. That last line prevents the heroes from carrying 2 sets of the same elemental spell group on the wizard. So you can't have 2 sets of fire that are both for the wizard, for example. Then, I built an identical card for monster spells. In the Wizards of Morcar quest pack, there are 4 additional monster spell groups: High Mage, Storm Master, Necromancer, and Orc Shaman. I added these to chaos spells, giving the heroes 5 spell groups to choose from. The card reads, "Your travels have increased your spell options. Select a spell group from the following list: Chaos, High Mage, Storm Master, Orc Shaman, or Necromancer. You can learn 3 spells from this spell group. If a group contains more than 3 spells, you'll learn 3 at random. You may not select a group you already have." This is the element of the monster spells level advancement that requires iteration. Learning random spells from a group is not as fun as choosing them. Moreover, there are a lot of chaos spells. In the future, I will organize chaos spells into groups of 3 along themed lines. And for other spell groups, I'll let the hero choose 1 spell and then draw 2 randomly. There are 2 more spell option cards in the Wizard's Leveling deck: What Doesn't Kill You 1 and What Doesn't Kill You 2. These cards provide access to a random monster spell group. This draws attention to the other revision I plan to make. At the very least, I will break the chaos spells up into subgroups by expansion, so that it is A, possible to get more than 1 chaos spell group, and B, there is more variety in the monster spell category. The option cards provide access to more powerful spells, automatically increasing the wizard's abilities. But the wizard is still often left with nothing to do when their friends murder monsters around them. The other obvious lines to improve the wizard are to increase the power of the elemental spells, to increase the quantity of spells that they can take, and to improve their ability to select effective spells. That is just what the last 3 cards do. The first one finally links mind points to spellcasting, allowing a wizard to bring a number of spells equal to twice their mind points into the dungeon. I called this Increased Magical Capacity, and the card reads, "You may prepare a number of spells equal to twice your mind points. You must still select spells as a group. If you do not have enough spots for a full group, choose which spells to leave behind. If you have not yet gained additional spell groups, you may redraw." This card increases a wizard's spell capacity by 3 right off the bat, allowing them to carry 12 spells, and gives them access to a theoretical 16 spells if they draw the extra mind point cards in the deck. The other axis on which I tried to improve the wizard's spell selection is by unlinking spells from their groups. So Seasoned Caster reads, "Instead of selecting spell groups, you may select individual spells to take with you on your adventure. You may not take more than 9, and you may not take duplicates unless you have another item or ability that allows you to do so. If you do not have more spells than spell slots, you may return this card to the deck and redraw." This card showcases how the wizard's deck produces scaling. The card allows heroes to drop the least useful spells in favor of the more useful ones, and they can do that while taking more spells altogether if they have increased magical capacity. A wizard with all of the cards so far mentioned would have access to 21 spells, and could choose the best 16 of them to take with them into a dungeon. The final card in the wizard's deck simply increases the damage output for the wizard. Since access to new spell groups provides new strategic options, I was fine with one card that just boosted raw power. I called this card Powercaster, and it reads, "If you cast a spell from the air, earth, fire, water, or darkness spell groups that directly attacks or deals damage to a monster, double the attack dice. If the monster has a chance to save, it gets to save against the additional damage or attack dice in the same way it would for the original damage." This wording makes a Fire of Wrath into a Fireball, and makes Fireball into a pretty reliable damage spell. Genie also becomes an extremely powerful attack. Taken together, the deck substantially increases the wizard's power, probably moving them to the absolute top of the power rankings by the end of their career. And I'm okay with that, because it's a very traditional trope that the wizard outstrips his compatriots in power over time. Obviously, to make this advancement system work, I had to slightly adjust the chaos spells. For example, the summons only stick around for 4 turns when summoned, and I'll outline the full range of changes in a future video, but this one has already run long. The wizard deck was in some ways the most intuitive to put together, especially once I decided that I didn't want to be making up spells. I'm interested in what others have done, however, to try to take advantage of the official material in improving their wizards. Let's plot together in the comments below. One final note, several people have asked for copies of my level advancement cards, and while I showed off my photoshopping skills in the videos, I'm not comfortable sharing those paltry photoshoppings for reproduction. I have, however, put a link to the text of the cards below. So if you're interested in making a set for yourself or just reading what I've done, you can find them there. If the channel gets large enough and there's enough interest, I may eventually commission some more professional and less derivative looking cards. But that's for another time.